Details are emerging of the scale of the attack by hundreds of militants who stormed a town in northern Mozambique last Wednesday. After days of silence, the Mozambican government has now acknowledged dozens of people have been killed in Palma. It says at least 7 people were killed trying to escape a hotel where they had been under siege for days. There are fears many people, mostly foreign workers employed in the energy industry, are missing following the ambush. Only 7 vehicles in a convoy of 17 made it to safety after the attack on Wednesday. Details of the attack follow reports that South Africa is considering sending military forces as part of a mission to rescue civilians trapped in Palma. The civilians are believed to include foreign workers from South Africa, Britain and France. For more on the story, let's now bring in our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena. Very good morning to you, Sophie. What's the latest on Mozambique?
Good morning, Desiree and the viewers. What we do know is that many of people who were trapped at the Amarula Hotel have been able to leave the dangerous area of Palma. But the question is, will it be easy for them to find their way back to their respective countries? As you know that for those who are South African nationals, there are strict regulations around COVID-19, and therefore for them to cross back to the country, they will have to undergo tests, and perhaps the health department and those at the borders to ensure that they don't have the virus, or they are fit to be in the country and they are not going to have challenges when they arrive here. But secondly, it is not clear yet how will this happen or how the evacuation is going to happen, because as you have reported that there are unconfirmed reports, let's make it clear, unconfirmed reports that South Africa will try and assist its citizens. Remember, it is a foreign country. South Africa can't just fly choppers or or the planes to that area and just take out its citizens. They have to communicate with the Mozambique authorities, but they must also sketch the risk in that area, because as you are aware, these groups are heavily armed. Their operation on Friday was well orchestrated with strong weapons, and also it is a risk just to go in a foreign country without really following processes, speaking to the government there. You know, we haven't forgotten what happened in the CAR, and I think the South African National Defence Force would want to avoid a repeat of the CAR in all costs, particularly with South African business involved in that country. You don't want to see a situation where later it will emerge that those who are involved in businesses in that country have abused state resources to protect their property there.
I know you say reports of South Africa helping out are unconfirmed at this stage, but DERCO has sent out a statement, and in the statement they say South Africa, through its mission in Maputo, is working with local authorities on verifications as well as providing the necessary consular services. They also say the mission in Mozambique is being reinforced with additional staff in order to handle the work at hand of locating, identifying and responding to the respective needs of the affected. Do we know what kind of help, what kind of consular services South Africa is providing at this time?
Clearly, consular services involve tracing who was there, who is trapped where and how, and communicating with head office in Pretoria. The issue of strengthening or reinforcing the mission, clearly it will be around security, because you know you have now South Africans who are involved in this conflict, and therefore it will be important to secure the embassy itself. And also reinforce, give more capacity for people who will be doing this work of interacting with the Mozambique government, interacting with people on the ground, sending the message to DERCO head office in Pretoria, briefing the president, briefing the security cluster. That's all what DERCO can do. DERCO cannot send troops or security or any operation, that will have to be done by security cluster. And as I indicated, South Africa cannot go there and bully Mozambique and just evacuate its citizens. It has to be properly handled. We don't want to see a CAR repeat, and therefore it is not a small task or an easy task. That is why they are not even divulging in full what they are up to at the moment. We know the president had meetings with the security cluster, but the content of the meeting were not made public because it is a very, very sensitive issue. Sensitive in this sense. You know, at some point in time, South Africa had to come up with an act that regulates the operations of the security companies outside South Africa, particularly on the continent where there are conflicts. And therefore, you have South African companies which is operating there saying they are providing security. The question is this real security? And also, when a security company signs a contract with a government to assist a government, not a private company, it borders on suspicions of mercenaries. And therefore, you have to be very, very careful when we deal with this issue. Particularly, it is very close to South Africa, and it can cause a major diplomatic fallout with the government or can cause a security problem for South Africa.
There's been questions about the role of SADC and the African Union in bringing stability in Mozambique. Do we know what activations they have in place?
Clearly, the last SADC meeting, they did talk about Mozambique, but the current chair of SADC is Mozambique. Therefore, Mozambique was reluctant or declined when countries were availing themselves to assist, particularly Tanzania, because it is at the border of Tanzania and Mozambique, and therefore Tanzania is affected. Zimbabwe, we know President Mnangagwa during a hard lockdown late last year went to Mozambique. Even the president of Mozambique visited Mnangagwa because then Mnangagwa was chair of the organ on politics, defense and security. Now it is Botswana. There was a discussion, but it didn't go far enough. We know that there were reports that South Africa is willing to assist, but South Africa will have to be very careful, particularly when you have your own citizens who are involved in interest in that country, because you don't want to be seen as protecting your own interests, but rather really helping. And therefore, South Africa or SADC will have to be guided by Mozambique. But Mozambique was very reluctant. America made a similar proposal because there's interest in the building of that, the oil refineries or gas there. The same with Italy made a similar proposal, France, and many others who have interest in that development there. It is the largest investment on the continent. Stakes are high, and therefore you have to be very, very careful. Therefore, we don't know yet. We are still waiting for SADC to release a statement giving us an indication what will be the role of SADC to try and stabilize that region. But it will depend on Mozambique. Mozambique is currently the chair. Maybe when Malawi takes over, it will be a different case.
Of course, this is the leading story on the continent, but what other foreign stories are we looking at this week, Sophie?
Well, we're looking at the Suez Canal, where we have this ship that caused a mayhem in the canal. And you know, many countries in terms of trade and investment, the movement of goods, they use that important area. And it links three regions, Asia, Africa, Europe, and therefore many vessels were stuck there, and the movement of goods was a problem. We know Asia was affected. You know, many goods are being exported from Asia. In fact, we are going to have an update from Hong Kong, how this whole scenario affected trade and investment between Africa and also Asia. Now we are told the ship is floating, and it is hoped that before end of the day, the canal will open and more vessels will be able to move around with those containers that are supposed to go to different parts of the world. The other story is the Tigray region in Ethiopia. Will really focus on Tigray at 8 o'clock tonight on Full View. You know, the aftermath of that whole conflict, the women voices in particular, the humanitarian crisis. And we will speak to NGOs, try to get the embassy to respond, but also get a comprehensive report from the UN. Shawn Bryce Peace will look at the humanitarian crisis. And on Mozambique, we will have we'll look at the economic impact, we'll look at the political impact, we'll look at the security impact. We will also look at the humanitarian crisis, ordinary people suffering because of this conflict now.
Thank you so much, Sophie, and we hope you can bring us those stories as they unfold. Foreign editor Sophie Mokoena. ANC President